Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
Yo, it's your boy, the odd guy himself, Malik King Scott.
Hi, I'm Charlie Edwards.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 66 of the BoxHard podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined by Ayaz Sumra. Ayaz, how you doing?
I'm good, Joey. How are you?
Same as always, my friend. Very good. Now we're going to dive straight into part one. Part one is where we're going to talk about the reviewing. There is one fight to preview, so we're not going to make a big song and dance about that. That is going to be in part two. So part two is going to be the news and the preview. Part one is going to be the reviewing. So we're going to start with a fight that we are going to review that happened over in Mexico at the Escape Bar in Tijuana, which is obviously part of Mexico. One fight to mention on this card over here, Devin Haney, the young undefeated prospect. We've talked very highly about him on this show before. We hope to get him on, but he seems to be quite elusive, not just in the ring, but also outside of the ring. He advanced to 12-0. He picked up a TKO in round one. It was only scheduled for 8, but we didn't need any of that. And his opponent in the other corner was a man by the name of Odilon Rivera. He had a record of 5-18, so not a great record, and Devin Haney done what you're supposed to do with that type of opponent. That's really it. That one took place on the Thursday. We're now going to go over to Friday at the Hialeah Park Racing and Casino in Florida, USA. Hope I got the pronunciation right. Top of the bill, Erislandy Lara putting his WBA Super welterweight title on the line against Yuri Foreman. Now, Yuri Foreman is a man who I didn't think would really pose any problem to Lara. I thought that, Lara has obviously mixed it at the better level. Foreman, he's been in there with a couple of good guys, but, none near the level of Erislandy Lara. I thought it was going to be easy, and it turned out to be a decent fight while it lasted. Foreman was down in round 3, and he got knocked out in round 4. So a good stoppage win there for Erislandy Lara. His record now 24-2 with the 2 draws. Yuri Foreman now 34-3. Also on that card, I should mention, Anthony Dirrell picked up his 30th career win. His opponent, Norbert Nemasapati, that's the guy who fought Callum Smith a couple months back, he retired at the end of round 6. He didn't come out for the 7th, so a good stoppage win there for Anthony Dirrell. And also on that bill, Juan Carlos Payano, former world champion, he picked up his 18th win with a TKO in round 7 at super bantamweight over Isao Gonzalo Carranza. His record was 15-7. It's now 15-8. And as I say, Juan Carlos Payano advances to 18 wins. He's got the 1 loss as well. That's it for Friday. We're now going to go over to the big one over on Saturday at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, USA. Fantastic boxing venue. One fight to mention before we talk about the main event. 2 fights actually. I want to talk about the Amanda Serrano fight. This is the WBO World Female Super Bantamweight Champion. She put her belt on the line and won unanimously over 10 rounds, 10 2-minute rounds that is. Her opponent Yasmin Rivas had a nice record, 35 wins, 9 losses and 1 draw, but she picked up a 10th loss here. So Amanda Serrano, the champion, retained the title and moved to 31 professional wins. She's got the 1 loss and the 1 draw as well. And also on the undercard, a man who we had on our show last week, Gervonta the Tank Davis. He was 16-0 with 15 knockouts, 7 inside the first round. He is only 22. A lot of people saw it as pretty early to challenge for a world title, especially against someone with the capabilities that Jose Pedraza has. I, for one, to be honest, I was going to probably favour Pedraza in this fight, like many others did. He was the favourite, I think, over here. I'm not so sure he was over in the States. Obviously, it was on a Mayweather show as well, Gervonta Davis being promoted by Floyd Mayweather. There was always a chance that if it went to points, he could be favoured on the judges' scorecards, but it didn't go that far. No. Pedraza was down in round 7 and a TKO was recorded in that round for Gervonta Davis. So Gervonta Davis causes the upset here. He advances to 17-0 with 16 knockouts. He's the new IBF World Super Featherweight Champion. As I said last week when he came on our show, I said that he is a quiet killer. He's a little bit shy with the media, but he is a quiet killer. And Jose Pedraza, who I have been saying for quite a while is a really good fighter, he's the only man in the top 20 or top 18, 19 fighters at Super Featherweight that has a completely clean record with no draws or losses. And I know that's quite staggering, but there's been so many good fighters and so many good fights matched at Super Featherweight that all of these guys have got blemishes, whether it's a draw, whether it's a couple of losses, couple of draws. He had nothing. Jose Pedraza was completely clean, 22-0, all wins. Gervonta Davis was exactly the same, 16-0, all wins. And as I say, Gervonta Davis caused the upset. I know that you was very very happy to see Gervonta Davis win this fight, Ayaz. I know that he also impressed you with his boxing skills. I'm going to leave it to you on this one. What did you like the most from Gervonta Davis, and how, I won't say surprised because we all knew it was going to be a close fight, but how impressed were you by his technique and the way he got the job done?
I was very, very impressed with Gervonta Davis. I tell you something, there's a star born in boxing, that his name is Gervonta Davis. He performed exceptionally. Many people believed in that. Even I thought myself, right? Yes, this is going to go points and Pedraza's going to win it. Like, obviously, we've seen Pedraza fought Stephen Smith before. Pedraza was just jabbing him and hurting Stephen Smith all the way. But this fight, wow, you can see the amount of talent that Gervonta Davis got. And when I saw him fight, I thought he reminded me a bit of Adrian Broner.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. He had the sort of, it's weird, it was kind of in the middle of Floyd Mayweather and Adrian Broner, but I think he was very much like Adrian Broner for sure, definitely. His stance, his movement, the elusiveness, the way he did it. It was a very, very, very good performance. It really, really was. In the first couple of rounds, he started very well, to be honest. He didn't give Jose Pedraza really a chance to get into the fight. I think Jose Pedraza's maybe a slow starter, someone that warms in as the fight went on. And to be honest, he was warming into the fight in the sort of rounds, the middle rounds. The fight only went 7 rounds, but in like the 4th, 5th round, Pedraza had decent rounds, but I don't know. It seemed like Gervonta kind of tired a little bit during those rounds, and he found a bit of a second wind. It was a brilliant fight. Anyone who hasn't seen it needs to go and watch it because it was a real good fight. I won't say fight of the year contender. We're only a couple of weeks into the year, but I think it was a brilliant fight. Definitely one I could watch again. As I say, Gervonta Davis, I'm very, very happy for him. It's another world champion that we've hosted on this show. He was great to speak to last week, and I'm sure he's going to be an exciting fighter to follow. So we're definitely going to keep an eye out for him. A brilliant win. As I say, his power as well is really good. It doesn't look like he carries too much power in his shots, but the way he was finding the body, everything, the body shots was absolutely second to none. It was great to see, brilliant display. And he called out Stephen Smith on our show last week, sort of. He said, if I get through this fight, I want Stephen Smith next. And I know that he wants to come over here in the UK at some point. And as I say, I cannot wait for these things to unfold, because a real fighter there that carries some serious excitement in the super featherweight division. But that's enough for that fight. A brilliant win there for Gervonta Davis, now 17-0. Jose Pedraza with his first blemish now, 22 wins and the 1 loss here. And now the main event, James Chunky Degale, the IBF World Super Middleweight Champion. He put his belt on the line against the WBC World Super Middleweight Champion, Badou Jack. James Degale 23-1, Badou Jack 20-1 with 2 draws. Ayaz, firstly, a lot of people, and we've got to be honest, we both said that we thought that Degale was going to win over 12 rounds, on points. We both thought that James Degale, we knew it was a close fight, but there was no danger that we didn't really think that Badou Jack was going to be able to win this fight. We thought that, a good James Degale beats a good Badou Jack all day long. And we saw a good James Degale. And we saw a good Badou Jack. But, of course, he didn't win. It went down as a majority draw. One judge gave it to James Degale. The other 2 judges gave it a draw. Ayaz, I'm going to throw it down to you to begin with. Obviously, you know, Badou Jack was put down in round 1. It was a good start from James Degale, and then we saw what's turning into really a trademark Degale, where he takes his foot off the gas for a few rounds, lets his opponent scrape back in, and then he came alive for the last couple of rounds as well. So yeah, I'm going to give it to you, Ayaz. What did you make of that fight?
Well, what did I make of that fight? Let me say something. That was fight of the year, in my opinion. Fight of the year already. In my opinion, I'll tell you something already, yeah? I'll tell you something. James Degale was brilliant in that fight. Badou Jack was brilliant as well. You see the first round, Degale actually knocked Badou Jack down. And then you see Degale winning these rounds. But then you see Badou Jack, like in the fourth round, he's winning the rounds. Round 6 to 9, Badou Jack was winning the rounds. And you can see Degale like getting hot. And the funny thing is, like, when Badou Jack, he threw the right hand, yeah, the left hook, and he hit the referee in the face. And 10-11, Degale won those rounds, and afterwards, like, Badou Jack, yeah, knocked Degale down, and he even broke Degale's front tooth. And in this fight, Degale, like, he even spat his mouth guard out like 3 times in this fight. But I personally thought from the start that Degale was going to win this. But then I didn't knew at the end that Badou Jack performed that good. It was going to be a draw.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to touch on the mouthpiece thing. I know he spat his mouthpiece out 3 times, but I don't think it was intentional. I really don't. I think 1 or 2 times it come out with a punch, and a couple, maybe 1 or 2 of the other times, it seemed like it just fell out while he was so exhausted, because he was throwing as it came out on most of those times. But I do want to say, you know, the first knockdown when James Degale put Badou Jack down in the first round, it was a brilliant start. It was a flash knockdown. You know, we knew that Badou Jack wasn't hurt. Badou Jack is someone who is very, very strong. I thought, you know, I know he's a strong, solid guy at 168, but I didn't think he was as strong as what he was when I saw him in there with James Degale. I honestly thought that James Degale would be sort of around the same strength. I thought that maybe James Degale might even be the stronger of the two, but Badou Jack, the strength this man's got, you know, it was just straight away. As soon as the bell went, he was straight into the center of the ring. James Degale did not get into the center of the ring at all during the fight. He was always on the back foot, if you like. Not I don't want to say so much on the back foot, but he was always the one on the outside. And when they fought on the inside, which is really Badou Jack's game more than Degale's. I'm not saying it's not Degale's game, because Degale is so well-rounded that he can adapt to any kind of style. He really can. But he was mixing it up on the inside a bit too much, and that is where Badou Jack was hitting him. I also thought before the fight that both men didn't have the power to trouble the other one. Obviously, you know, we've seen Badou Jack go down. It was a bit of a flash knockdown. It might have been a bit of an imbalance. I'm not sure. And then in the last round, Badou Jack definitely has got the more power out of the two guys. I really didn't think that before the fight, but wow, he was landing some bombs. And James Degale has got a really good chin. But I think in that 12th round, when he put him down, he was so exhausted because it was such a dogfight. You know, you said it was fight of the year. Again, it's a bit early to call that, but he's definitely going to be a contender. Unfortunately, by the time December rolls around, which is like 11 months away, people are going to forget about this fight, which always happens. So, you know, we're gonna mention it here as being one of the fights of the year's contender, but you know, we're gonna probably forget it later in the year. But we've made our mark here by saying it, that it was a great fight. And again, if you have not seen this, you need to go and watch it. It was a fantastic, fun-filled fight. It was definitely worth staying up for. James Degale, though, I just don't know what this problem is, why he takes his foot off the gas. But I don't want to say that that's the only reason why Badou Jack was able to win as many rounds as he did and make it such a close fight, because Badou Jack was brilliant. I've said it beforehand. I said that if James Degale takes his foot off the gas and lets Badou Jack in, this could be a fight which he's going to lose. I said Badou Jack is too good to do this with. You know, he's going to lose the fight if he does it. He can't afford to do it. And to be honest, he couldn't afford to do it. And I'm thankful that the judges were as fair as what they were, because we was all worried that there might be a bit of home cooking here. And, you know, the judges were very, very fair. The judges, and not only that, but the network as well, they actually gave James Degale a number of the first 5 rounds or 6 rounds. They gave it quite in favour of Degale, even maybe a little bit too much in my opinion. but it was an American broadcaster that put the event on, and I was very happy that they weren't being biased. So that's always good to see. Floyd Mayweather said at the end, and I got to say I liked it, because Floyd Mayweather took the mic and started saying all this stuff about bad decisions, and I liked to actually see James Degale butting in, jumping in, telling him he's talking rubbish. That was actually good to see. I really like to see that, because not enough people have done that to Floyd over the years. He always gets his say, and he actually couldn't. He got beaten in verbally by James Degale, which we haven't seen a lot in Floyd's years. But James Degale, we know he's great for banter. You can't. He's like Tyson Fury. You can't outspeak him, kind of thing. He's very good with the microphone in front of him. Ayaz, Floyd Mayweather said in his opinion, and I quote, "This is bad for boxing. Badou Jack has had two bad decisions go against him in a row now. He's had 2 draws in a row here. Once against Lucien Boutte, we know that was a disgraceful decision. Once here against James Degale. But his quote where he said that this is bad for boxing, I know what you're going to say here when I ask you this, but we both know that fight was definitely not bad for boxing. And seeing as it was so close, remember, one judge gave it to James Degale. Some people think that Badou Jack got it, but at the end of the day, no one can be annoyed or angered if it would have gone either way by 1 round. It went down as a draw. It's not bad for boxing, is it, Ayaz? It was a great fight for boxing.
It's not bad for boxing. The reason Mayweather was saying that is because that's his fighter, Badou Jack. And the thing is, I can get where he's coming from, right? When Jack fought Boutte, in my opinion, I thought Jack won that. I personally think Jack won that. With this Degale fight, it was very, very close. The thing is, if Jack didn't get knocked down in the first round, I personally reckon Jack would have won that fight. If he didn't get knocked down in that first round.
Well, yeah, that ended up being a telling factor, but it's the same thing,
Yeah.
If Degale didn't get knocked down in that 12th round, then he would have won the fight, Yes. So it was 1-13 on 2 scorecards. So yeah, if it wasn't a 10-8 in that last round, then he would have won. The knockdowns kind of nullified each other because they happened in the first and last rounds, and a 10-8 and then a 10-8 the other way, they kind of nullified each other. So they were both telling factors until the Badou Jack, the James Degale knockdown in the last round nullified it. So he needed that knockdown. Badou Jack, for it to be a draw. So, it was a very close fight. It wasn't bad for boxing, and I agree, Floyd only went on that rant because it was his fighter. But we'll move on from that anyway. This card was the last card that we had to review because there wasn't too much boxing on. And again, there's not really any boxing on this week. It's a bit of a slow season in January, as I've said many, many times. Some good fights coming up, by the way, but just not this particular week. So that's it for the reviewing. The one last thing to do before we end part 1 is to welcome our first guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a man that's in a big fight on the Eubank Jr undercard coming up in just 2 weeks' time. It's, of course, Mr. John Ryder. John, welcome back on the show. It's been a while, to be honest.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me, man. Glad to be back.
Hey, it's always my pleasure, my friend. Now, John, we're calling you out of your training camp in Portugal. How's that going? I know that there's a few of the lads out there with you. Who's out there with you, just to remind me, actually?
We've got myself, Ricky Burns, O'Hara Davis, Conor Den, Felix Cash, Ted Cheevan and Mike Ward. And obviously Tony Sims is here with us. So it's a good camp. We're only 3 days in just for our last bit, but it's going well.
You're fighting Adam Etches on the 4th of February, obviously. We had him on our show last week. It's always good to speak to both fighters, so we've got you on as well. I asked Adam the same question to begin with that I'm going to ask you. The telling factor in terms of your records here is that you both have fought Sergei Kamitsky. You beat him on points over 12. He knocked Adam Etches out in round 4. Can anything be taken from that little fact there?
Not really. I mean, it was one shot that turned the fight on his head, and I've been in a position with Blackwell and one shot can turn a fight on his head. So I wouldn't read too much into it. I don't think for 1 minute that he's chinny or that's I'm going to knock him out with one shot, because I think that would be stupid of me. Do you know what I mean? He's a good fighter. He's tough. He carries power. And I know he's a good boxer. He's been at the England camp for years, and they just seem to breed good fighters, don't they? He's just another one. He's a good fighter. He's around good fighters, so it's just really success. So but myself, I'm training around good fighters, and we all push each other on.
Yeah, absolutely. And Adam said that he believed that this fight between you both is a 50-50 fight, and that it would be a make or break in some ways, and it would be a very hard, long road back for the loser, he said. Do you share that opinion as well?
Yeah, I massively. Look, I'm not old, I'm 28, but I'm coming off 3 losses now, albeit the one to Billy Joe, you can kind of wipe the mouth for that one and say, yeah, you know what, he's a world champion now. Fair dues. Lost to Blackwell. Nothing I can do about that. Not that I'd want to do anything about it now, but with what's been going on. Yeah. And the Jack Arnswood fight, I mean, I still feel I won the Jack Arnswood fight, but it's one of those things you've got to rebuild, and I didn't go up a weight. I feel that this is the right weight for me now. But it's all still to show. Do you know what I mean? We're both moving up a weight. We both have got something to prove. So I believe it makes it a good fight and bring out the best of us. But yeah, I mean, it's for me, I think that there isn't a road back if I lost this fight. That's why I'm taking it so seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're both coming up from middleweight here officially in this one. This is obviously at super middleweight, as you just said. Was that any one of you's demands more than the other, or was it just a mutual thing to do this one at super middle?
Well, no, I'd say it's our team after the Armfield loss that if I was going to continue that, I needed to move up, need to give this 12 stone a shot, and then they can't with this, so I assume he was of the same thought that he thought that he needed to move up to give his best. And
I've got to ask you about this. I don't know if you actually managed to see it or not. As you say, you know, you're over in Portugal at the moment. Did you manage to catch the James Degale and Badu Jack fight at all?
I did. I was that was the day before I left. I had my mate call me up at 4 in the morning. Simon Clayton, if I can give a shout out to him, I'll Playmaker Big Si for calling me.
Absolutely.
He did call me around 2 though, so it's a little bit late. But luckily, my mum had knocked on the door. So no, yeah, I thought it was a good fight. I mean, it's a shame when it's a draw, but I said to a friend prior to that, like, don't rule out a draw. Do you know what I mean? I thought it'd be more of a clear-cut Degale point when you maybe just get robbed on the scorecard to a draw. Yeah. But no, Joe, I'm impressed with Jack. I think I wouldn't say he does anything special, but he does everything good. If that makes sense. Like, he's not spectacular to watch, but he's very efficient. He seems to be effective. This is like the straight shots. So be interested to see what he does next. But I think James has got a lot more to offer, and just not seeing the best in him yet.
Yeah, I basically said exactly what you said there just the other week, just the show we did before. I said that Badu Jack doesn't really do anything spectacular, but does all the basics very well. So, yeah, definitely, you know, a popular opinion, that one. Who did you think nicked it, or are you happy with the draw on that one?
No, I think it's a fair result. I mean, you got to give Degale the first 3. I mean, what with the knockdown he won, then Jack came back quite strong. There was a lot of close rounds that, I mean, quite subjective, like who do you score for? Do you know what I mean? But obviously the thing that's United spent on it was a knockdown in the last round. But no, I think it made for a good rematch. But all being said, like Jack moves up now, it's not going to happen, I suppose. Yeah. But it would have been good to get a rematch and see a more decisive winner.
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple of other fights I want to ask you about, to be honest, John. A couple of upcoming fights. I've got to ask you about this big one at heavyweight. I've got to ask everyone about it, to be honest. Anthony Joshua against Vladimir Klitschko. Is it too early for Anthony Joshua? Is it the perfect timing? What's your take on that one?
I think Anthony Joshua will knock him out before 6 rounds. I think it's the right time. I think it's a long time to ring for Klitschko. I mean, don't get wrong, he's another one that is very effective with what he does and does it well, but I just think he's a bit scared to pull the trigger now, and he doesn't really let his shots go, and he'll know at some point that AJ's going to catch him. Okay,
fair enough. And the last question about, well, I've got 2 more questions for you. This is the last one I want to ask you about an upcoming fight. One at middleweight. Gennady Golovkin against Danny Jacobs. Finally, a fight that, well, it's the closest thing to a 50-50, I suppose, at middleweight. How do you see that one playing out? Do you reckon that Danny Jacobs can pose any problems?
Well, I mean, you look at Danny Jacobs, he had the loss to Pirog, and then he had a battle with cancer. And I mean, you look at Zlaticanin and you thought, he's not going to do anything. Do you know what I mean? But then, who knows if he had that problem during that fight? Do you know what I mean? Was that hamstring, not knowing what it was to the extent that it was. Then he's come back and he's knocked out Peter Quillen in an amazing fashion. Yeah. So he's obviously got a lot of power himself. It'll just be very interesting. But I'm a Golovkin man. I think Golovkin probably will stop him. Probably later on, maybe 8 or 9 rounds. But I just can't see him beating Golovkin at the moment.
Yeah, me neither. And the final question now for you, John. I asked this one to Adam last week, and I'm going to ask you the same thing. How do you win this fight? And if you've got a prediction, I'm not going to push you for one, but if you've got one, please let us hear it. There's many ways to skin the cat in there, but I believe that I've got a good boxing brain, and I'm fit, and I'm strong, and I'm ready, and I believe that I will be the best at 12 stone that you've seen me for a while. So I don't make any predictions, but it could be in the points or late stoppage. Either one would do for me, just to get the win and just to keep my career on the right path. Yeah, absolutely. All right then, John, thank you very much. Thank you very much for giving us a bit of time from Portugal. It's always a pleasure speaking with you, my man. You know that. Thank you, as I say, for giving us a bit of time. Best of luck for your upcoming fight, and we'll definitely catch up sometime afterwards. Lovely. Thank you, Joey. Thanks a lot, mate. Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the preview part. There's only one fight to preview. We're going to start with a card, we're going to start and finish with a card, over in the Sun National Bank Center in Trenton, New Jersey, USA. One fight to mention, Zab Judah. His record at the moment, 42-9. He's in a 10-rounder at welterweight against Jorge Luis Mungula, who has a record of 12-7. So Zab Judah, he's been out of the ring now. He's been out of the ring a long time. His last fight was against Paulie Malignaggi. That was like the Battle of Brooklyn. And that was actually back in 2013, December of 2013. So he's been out of the ring just over 3 years. He's now aged 39. He wasn't impressive last time out against Paulie Malignaggi. Paulie Malignaggi is well over the hill now. And, I don't really know why he's still fighting, but we've got to give him a mention because Zab Judah is definitely one of the legends of the sport, and that is really it for the previewing, that one fight there. So the next thing to do is to bring in Ayaz with this week's roundup of the boxing news from around the world.
Saul Canelo Alvarez will fight Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. on May the 6th.
Yes. This is a fight, obviously, it's a big money fight for Mexico. Simple as that. A lot of people, I don't think many people are going to favour Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. winning this fight, in my honest opinion. I think that Canelo's way too good, too dedicated to the sport, lives the life properly. We all know that Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. He's a legend in his own right, because, he's a son of a legend. That's what he actually is. His dad was the real legend, but he's done some great stuff in the sport, former world champion, great wins on his resume and all that. But Canelo is a different breed, so to speak. I think that this fight, does it say which weight it's going to be at yet, Ayaz? Has that been sorted out?
Being contracted for 164 pounds.
164. Oh, 164. Wow. Yeah, well, it's definitely, if anything, that's a weight really that I'd imagine Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. is more comfortable at than Canelo Alvarez. But, Canelo, his people are very, very clever, and they wouldn't have signed to fight at that weight if they didn't feel extremely comfortable at that weight. So, yeah, it's going to be a good fight for Mexico. It really is. But one that I can see Canelo getting the job done pretty easily.
David Lemieux will take on Curtis Stevenson on March the 11th.
Yeah, 2 guys that have lost to Gennady Golovkin, 2 victims of Gennady Golovkin. It seems like we've said that quite a few times. All these guys that he's fought, a few of them have ended up fighting each other. Curtis Stevens, obviously, the assassin, a clever fighter. He's featured on the showreel knockout of Gennady Golovkin's. He's got a load of showreel knockouts, but that one where he knocks Curtis Stevens down and his eyes roll back, that's definitely, one of the top videos on the showreel. But he's a good fighter, and Lemieux can really bang. That is his main tool. He's got a cracking right hand, and he can really bang. So it's a skillful boxer against a banger, to be honest here. And, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I think that the way Gennady Golovkin beat Lemieux, because he boxed him in that fight and showed great boxing skills and, the good jab. Curtis Stevens has got a very good jab, so if he can use that, it's going to make it interesting. But, if he doesn't keep his guard up and he gets hit with one of those overhand rights or those right hooks that Lemieux possesses, then it's night-night. So, intriguing, I suppose, intriguing. Both of them on a bit of a bad patch in their careers right now. One of them is going to get springboarded into something big with a win here. So definitely one I'm going to watch as a boxing fan myself, but not one I'm going to be losing sleep over because I'm so excited for it. Any more news?
Joe Gallagher says Callum Smith would welcome a vacant title fight with Anthony Dirrell if Badou Jack decides to move up the weight.
Yeah, that's something that we really should have probably touched on a couple moments ago when we talked about the James Degale fight. It's been made clear James Degale was very, very persistent about a rematch. Straight away he said, come on, let's do it again. He's a warrior, James Degale, he truly is. And Badou Jack said, yeah, let's do it at light heavyweight. That's ridiculous. There's no way that James Degale should be at light heavyweight at all. Badou Jack's obviously going to be moving up there, it seems, and I think he's going to probably do that before he fights Callum Smith. Now, I'm not saying, he's trying to avoid Callum Smith. I'm saying that his mandatory's due. He's got to fight Callum Smith within so many days before he has to vacate. Callum Smith is not a big name in America whatsoever, so they would have to pay him a lot of money to get him over here, and I don't see that happening at all. I really don't see Floyd putting Badou Jack over in the UK, where, let's be honest here, we're known for some hometown decisions sometimes, especially on Eddie Hearn's cards. Badou Jack's been on the wrong end of the decision twice now, in Mayweather's opinion. He's not going to let it happen 3 times in a row, so he's not going to be coming over here. That's the end of that. Is Callum Smith going to go over there? Well, I just can't see it happening because I don't think the fight's big enough, simply because Callum Smith doesn't have a name over in the US. He's fought over there before, obviously, but he just doesn't have a good enough name over there. So I don't see that fight happening. I don't see them sorting out a contract over there. I don't know what card it would go on. It's definitely not a bill topper. Would it be thrown on the Chris Brown fight? I don't know. Maybe it'd be on that Chris Brown and Soulja Boy undercard. Who knows? But no, all seriousness, I can't see the fight happening. I can see Badou Jack vacating his title and moving up to light heavyweight. It's a risky fight against Callum Smith as well. Don't laugh at me when I say that. I'm being honest. I think that's a risky fight for anyone. If Callum Smith switched on, he's so long, he hits hard, his body shots are ferocious. It's a tough fight for Badou Jack if he turns up with his A game, Callum Smith, and I think that he will turn up with his A game for big fights and big opponents and stuff like that. So for me, he's going to vacate, he's going to move up, and it's going to be a vacant belt, and then we're going to see Callum Smith fight, as you say, Anthony Dirrell, which I think it's a much easier fight, I suppose, than Badou Jack. Anthony Dirrell, in my opinion, I think his brother Andre Dirrell is a better fighter than him, in my honest opinion. So one that is still a really tough fight. It's one that I can see going both ways, really. Callum Smith's definitely got to be on his A game. Can't be turning up in journeyman mode like he's fought a couple of journeymen recently, and he's been terrible against them. He can't turn up like that. He's got to turn up seriously focused, and I know he will. So it'll be a good fight if whether he takes on Badou Jack or Anthony Dirrell. So I'm looking forward to see that situation being sorted out pretty soon. Callum Smith's been waiting for a long time now, and I can't wait to see him get his chance on the big world stage. Is there any more news for us, Ayaz?
No, there's not other news, Joey.
Okie dokie. Right, so before we end part 2 and end the show, essentially, there's one last thing to do, and it's the same as every week. We've got to welcome our second and final guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former 2-weight world champion, Mr. Mikey Garcia. Mikey, welcome back on the show. It's great to get you back on.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's always a pleasure. We're back. We're excited for what's coming.
Absolutely. So, of course, the reason we got you on is you're taking on Zlaticanin on the 28th of this month. What do you know about him, Mikey? He seems to be very underrated. He even actually got a shock win over here a couple of years back against one of our guys, Ricky Burns. That was really the win that turned him into a superstar. Since then, he's just been marching on stronger and stronger. What do you know about him?
Well, I've seen some video and I've seen some film, on my opponent, Dejan Zlaticanin. I can tell that he's a very aggressive fighter. He's a pressure fighter that can come forward. He's a southpaw, and he's got power in both hands, especially that overhand left that's given him a lot of success in this fight. He's undefeated world champion. I'm sure he's very motivated right now, very hungry, determined to make a statement and shock the world once again. So I'm looking forward to this fight. I'm looking forward to a tough, competitive fight that will allow me and push me to the next level and show the world, the type of fighter that I am.
And I've got to ask you this, Mikey. How has camp been? Has it been any different to any previous camps that you've participated in?
We had a very good camp. We had great sparring, great workout routine. Nothing different other than maybe making some adjustments in sparring for my opponent. Like we had southpaw opponents and southpaw sparring partners that come forward and that's about everything. But other than that, it's a great camp. My dad, my brother, my nephew, we were all having a very good camp.
Excellent stuff, man. Excellent stuff. And I know that when you came back after the long layoff, you didn't want to waste any time getting into any, warm-up fights. You wanted to jump straight in, and you did that when you took on Elio Rojas in your comeback fight. Here, in just your second fight back, you're fighting for a world title. Is this how quick you would have liked it, Mikey, or did it come a little bit, in your honest opinion, a little bit too soon?
Well, because I feel that I was always ready. I never lost anything in the time that I was played. So I was ready to jump in right where I left off. And that's why I chose and decided to go for a world title fight. It's just my second fight back. I don't think I need any tune-up fights or any, easy fights to get the rhythm going, get my confidence back or anything like that. I never left for any injury. I never left because I was knocked out or I lost a fight. I never left for those reasons. I left because of political reasons and business reasons in boxing. But I feel in my prime. I feel fast. I feel strong. I'm confident in myself. And I'm ready to take on the big challenges. Third division, in the lightweight division, this will be my third division. So I'm ready to move forward and have my best career, and the best stage of my career after this January the 28th. This is what you're going to remember me most for.
Yeah, absolutely. And previously, the last time we spoke, you expressed wanting the WBO title because that's the title that, you've won in both of the weight divisions that you've been in previously. And obviously, we talked about the WBO champion at lightweight, Terry Flanagan. Now you're fighting for the WBC. I just wanted to ask you, is the WBO belt still something you want, providing you beat Zlaticanin?
Yes, I still want that WBO title. I want to select that third WBO title, but like I said, I understand the business and politics, and he has his scheduled fight. He was scheduled to be fighting Degale late last year in November. We couldn't take on Flanagan, so we opted to go for the WBC title in Dejan Zlaticanin, and we find out Degale got injured, and then I probably could have maybe stepped up, but I was already in talks with WBC for the title, so now it seems like the WBO might have to wait a little longer for me. But if that opportunity was available and presented to me, I would really like to take on that opportunity, that challenge, because, like I said, that's the title that I really also want.
Yeah, of course. And previously, again, last time we spoke, you expressed the want to fight Terence Crawford. But seeing as it looks like he's now moving up to 147, do you think that fight probably won't happen now?
Well, all these fights and possible fights that people like to mention and bring up, like Terence Crawford or anybody else at 140 pounds, or even someone at 130, like they brought up the name of Lomachenko, maybe moving up to 135, and all these on every single one of them. But it all depends on the timing. You know, if Terrence Crawford moves up to 147, which I've heard also that he's close to moving up to 147, you know, that fight might not happen for another few years. You know, I'm still at lightweight. Maybe by the time I move up to 140, Crawford is no longer there. And if I move up to 140 pounds, Lomachenko maybe barely moves up to 135. So, you know, it's hard to say if it's going to happen or not. But if the timing is right, if we're both in the same division at the same time, I won't take on any fighter, any challenge, just like I'm sure any champion is willing to fight me as long as the timing is right for everyone.
Yeah, of course, of course. Two last questions for you now, Mikey. Two questions about other fights I wanted to grab your opinion on. Last time we spoke, you mentioned that you wasn't particularly happy with Canelo for fighting at these catchweights. Only just recently, this week, it came out that he's going to be taking on Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. That's going to be at 164 pounds, which is a strange weight. What's your take on this? Mikey? Who do you reckon is going to win this one? And what's your whole view on this whole catch weight at 164, which is almost unheard of?
Well, I just see it as a business decision in Canelo's team. They need a big name. They need a big name opponent and make the money and make the event that Golden Boy and Canelo want to put together. And that name happens to be Chavez. That's the best option for them. Huge name, huge fight for the boxing world, especially for Mexican fight fans. It's a huge boxing fight. But like I said, I see it and clearly can say it's just a business decision. It's not going to do much more than generate a lot of money. But it is, as far as, you know, title or legacy victories, there's other fights that Canelo should be taking that the fans are asking for, like the Triple G fight or anybody else at 160 pounds. And instead he's choosing to fight Chavez Jr. at 164 or 65, whatever the catch weight may be. You can't say it's for any other reason than business.
Who do you see winning that one, Mikey?
Well, I think it's actually not a bad fight. It all depends on Chavez Jr. I really think that if Chavez Jr. can get back in the gym, train, be hungry like he was when he fought Sebastian Big and Andy Lee, those kind of fights, you know, 4, 5, 6 years ago when he was champion, if he can get back to that rhythm and to that hunger, I think he has a very good chance of winning because he is very strong, very big. He has a good chance also of winning. But if he doesn't come prepared, if he's only in there half, you know, performing halfway, training, you know, half the time and not taking it serious, then Canelo's going to win. Canelo's going to win because he's always in shape. He's always in training. He's a big dude. He hits hard also. But I think it's really in the hands of Chavez Jr. to fill out and you know, determine who the winner is.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think it depends on which Chavez Jr. turns up. We know that Canelo lives the life. You know, he's completely dedicated to boxing. Chavez Jr., unfortunately, we can't say the same things about him recently. But yeah, I hope it is a good fight. And the final question for you now, Mikey. You're fighting on the Frampton and Santa Cruz undercard. Last time we spoke to you, again, I keep referring to last time we spoke to you. Last time we spoke to you, this fight, the first one, was just about coming round. And I asked your opinion, and you said you predicted it was going to be a close fight, but you just favoured Leo Santa Cruz to win. On the night, obviously, Frampton got the win. Who do you see winning this time round in the main event?
Well, you know what? I thought Santa Cruz had the advantage in size over Frampton, and that's why I had picked him to win a close fight, a close decision. Turned out to be a very close fight, but I saw Frampton win. He did enough to win. He would counter just enough to win the round. He would circle around Santa Cruz and get off first, and he beat him. It was close, very competitive, but Frampton had the better game plan. This time around, I don't expect it to be any different. I think it's going to be a very close fight. I would like to see that they put together, a second fight together like they did the first one, we're definitely going to see a third fight. And if they're 1-1, we need that rubber match, to settle the score. They're both going to come, obviously, with their strategy, and Leo's going to make some adjustments. I also think Frampton's going to make his adjustments. Now, I really think it's a 50-50 fight. First time around, like I said, I was picking Leo for the size advantage, but, Frampton did a very good job in the first fight. I think it's a 50-50 fight. Even though Frampton won the first fight, it wasn't an easy victory. It was a very close fight. I actually have it 50-50 this time.
You can't pick a winner at all?
I think either one can win it. Like I said, I would like to see Leo win it. One, I know him, we're friends, and two, because it will make for a very good third fight.
Okay, fair enough. Listen, Mikey, it's always a pleasure to speak with you, my friend. You know that yourself. You're a beast of a fighter, and I wish you all the best for the 28th. I know that you're going to be world champion again very soon, and we'll catch up sometime after the 28th, my friend.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the support, and all the fans, UK, thank you very much for always supporting me, and now I'm going to give them a lot more for Mikey Garcia.
And that's it. It's time to wrap up episode 66. Last week we spoke to Gervonta Davis. He became a world champion just a few days after our interview. This week we spoke to Mikey Garcia, and I personally believe he's going to become a world champion again in just a matter of days. Seeing as we've had both Adam Etches and John Ryder on the show within the last 7 days, it means that they've both been blessed with the BoxHard good luck charm. So it just adds to the anticipation of their fight. That's a fight I'm really, truly looking forward to. It really is. A big thank you to our two guests on this week's show, Mikey Garcia and John Ryder. A big thank you to our listeners, the most loyalist boxing heads in the world. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Ayaz Summer has been the Trevor McDonald of the boxing world. It's been fun. It's been another freebie for your ears. Same as always. We'll be back next week with another big show. Until then, take care.